Hello, teachers of Azerbaijan. I'm Merilin Atkinson. I'm speaking to you from Vancouver, Canada. I'm the president of Erickson Coaching International. And I'm very pleased to join you here today as you really look at the profession of teaching and how we impact the people we serve. Now, we're in a powerful profession. I've been training and teaching all my life, and I've also been coaching. I've also been telling a lot of stories. And these three areas have been shown to be very powerful in terms of personal learning. May I tell you a secret? Maybe you know it already. The people who are in our courses, if they're listening to us, they only get about 1/3 of the power, even 1/4 of the power that we get as the teachers. The people who learn most from our teaching are ourselves. Now let me show you a little picture here that gives you some understanding of how this works. This is an image of 4 different kinds of events people can be doing as they listen to a teacher. 1, they can be reading. They can be reading along. 2, they can be listening. 3, they can be recalling. Now notice with each of these images of the brain, we see very small parts of the brain impacted by these experiences. But look at the 4th scan. This is an fMRI image of the brain when someone is either teaching, coaching, or storytelling. Now, what's the impact of that? That's a very important image. First of all, it talks to the fact that our students learn much more when they do the teaching. When they're sharing with each other, they learn a lot. When they're telling a story, they learn a lot. When they're exploring their own questions, they learn a lot. These are all critical areas of teaching and coaching. And with coaching is all about asking the kind of questions that engage people and get them going with the experience of learning. Storytelling, people easily identify with the person in the story. They're safe. It's all happening to someone else. And so the needed relaxation happens. The students relax and they just begin to explore that area of learning from a safe place where they can watch how somebody else responds to a situation, a challenge, a discovery, a moment of experience. These are all important. Stories are designed so that people can identify themselves without necessarily being the one in the driver's seat. So we want our participants to get the deep value that we as teachers get when we're learning from ourselves. We want them to get the value when we coach them, and that you're in a coaching conference. You'll learn a lot about solution-focused vision, solution-focused methods to open the mind and the heart of young people to get them involved. Storytelling is the 3rd. And because that's a unique area of my work, I'd like to share some about that with you here today. Because I want to invite you to tell more stories in your classroom. They're so important. and they make such a difference to the learning and the emotional intelligence of the students who come out of our classrooms. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. There's many kinds of stories. You can speak parables. We've got lots of books of parables, little anecdotes, interesting. They get the imagination going. And vision is important in storytelling. We want people to visualize, how does this work? What impacts what? Who's learning here? What's the discovery? You can tell many kinds of stories that are adventure stories, and young people especially love them. But I want to suggest to you right now another area, which is to tell stories about your own life. Talk about yourself. Now, this is much easier than it looks like, than it sounds like. First of all, we go through many events in life where we have to make decisions. Our young people are learning how to do effective decision making from us. They're learning to make choices. They're moving into a world where there's lots and lots of complexity. And your own life events gives them a context for thinking about what does a mature person need to do to live in this world. So the way you tell your stories makes a big difference to people. You can tell simple stories about what happens each day. You know, your students see you every day. That means you naturally have quite an impact on them. It means that you can encourage their curiosity. What would they do in a certain situation you were in? Maybe you were stuck in traffic. Maybe you had some promises you made and you couldn't keep them because of something that came up. What would they do? So leverage your influence by talking about your own daily challenges. There's lots of challenges we can share with young people. And then they get a sense of what it's like to be in your shoes. It's participatory learning. It's valuable because they now begin to develop their emotional intelligence. How do they build their awareness of thinking through time and handling many different things? How do they build their motivation when things come at them full blast? How do they stand in the shoes of somebody who's facing a challenge and say, yes, I'll do it? Which is what we as teachers and trainers can really share as we tell stories. In our stories, we can ask lots of open-ended questions, the kind that they need to address. We can look at who do they want to become? Why is this important? How can they make it happen? But they're stepping into our shoes as we address those events. We're looking at our current life adventures. Now, we could also share overall life adventures. See, our life has got a lot of different contexts. They might be interested in key decisions you made. Why did you decide to become a teacher? Really go into the motivational issues, the questions, the self-promises, and your ways that you focus on your purpose, your own development, your own self-discovery, and how important that is to your life. They may be interested in various things, like why did you decide to move to this city, or how did you choose this career or this situation to take a stand in? What about your hobbies? Really interesting to young people. The most valuable way to tell a story isn't to think about, oh, I got to tell the students a story. It's to ask yourself, what were the most challenging events of my life? And then find a way to notice how might you talk about them with students. For example, maybe there were issues of ethics in your life. We all have situations where somebody attempts to bribe us. Or maybe we happen to witness something happen, a theft in a store. And there's all sorts of questions then about how do we address in the most valuable way to get the result that people need. Now, participants in our courses are very interested in this because these are the life events they're going to face. They need to know how to deal with ethical dilemmas. And the more we can share with them about what gives most value to people, the easier it is for them to think through their ethics. Now, there's so many kinds of stories. One of my favorites, and I think one of the most important, is what we call hero journey stories. Now, you may have children reading books in your classes who go into hero's journey stories. You may have situations in your life where you've read hero's journey stories before. You've read the Harry Potter series. You've read about Lord of the Rings. Maybe as a child you watched movies of Pinocchio or Dumbo or The Lion King. These are all stories that are riveting because they show the process where someone starts out very innocent and then gradually they have to meet big challenges. So the hero gets challenged early and the hero has to commit. This is something that young people think through carefully. The hero is tested and needs to really decide, can I do this? And needs to ask for friends and allies and mentors, because the testing can go on and it can get deep and wide. The hero needs to develop inner resources. Life is tough, and the hero is facing that tough experience. Will they succeed? You remember reading these riveting stories or watching the movies. That finally the hero faces the strongest barriers. The little hobbit has to go through Mordor. The hero needs to meet the dragon or the worst possible challenger. And they need to face that with courage. Now, as you tell those stories, people learn how to build their courage. They learn how to build their commitment. They learn how to build their life. That's the purpose here. Now, there's a lot more I can say about that. I could talk about how we want to bring in the three friends when we're making decisions. You can teach a lot in a story. What are the three friends? You can ask your vision. What do you want to show me about this decision? You can ask your feelings. What do you want to give me that will help me understand what's most valuable here? Or you can talk to your inner voices, the inner challengers of your own, and ask them, so what life experiences do you want to share that would really allow me to make this decision well? Now, as you explain how that you went through something or how it can be done well, huge learning can happen. And then you can turn it back to them. What would you do in this situation? What would this allow you to learn? How might you handle it? How might you do it differently? Sometimes it's really valuable to not tell them the outcome, not tell them what you chose, until everybody's thought it through, till you've brainstormed, till you've explored, and then share. So I invite you to enjoy your day, really learn a little bit about coaching here today. Think about being a teacher and a coach at the same time. Think about using a coaching style of teaching all the way through your career. Thank you.